If someone sees 51% of Bitcoin's mining power tomorrow, they still couldn't steal a single Satoshi from your wallet, but they could pull off a $250,000 art heist. Both statements are true. To understand why, we need to follow Bitcoin mining from a hobby on a laptop to an industrial arms race. In 2009, you mined Bitcoin on a CPU, churning out millions of hashes per second. By 2010, miners discovered GPUs could do the same work hundreds of times faster. Then came FPGAs, programmable chips tuned for hashing. And in 2013, the ASIC arrived, an application-specific integrated circuit that does one thing: compute SHA-256 and does nothing else. A single early ASIC out-hashed the entire 2010 network. Each generation jumped orders of magnitude, from megahashes to gigahashes to terahashes per second. Mining stopped being something you did with spare cycles and became a capital-intensive industry dominated by specialized chips, cheap electricity, and warehouse-scale operations. Faster hardware created a new problem. The block header contains a 32-bit nonce, a counter that miners increment while hashing. 32 bits gives about 4 billion values, since 2 to the 32nd is roughly 4.3 billion. At 4 gigahashes per second, a miner burns through all 4 billion possibilities in about 1 second flat. Then what? The answer hides in the Coinbase transaction, the special transaction that pays the miner the block reward. Miners add an extra nonce field, 8 bytes, tucked inside the Coinbase, change the extra nonce, and the Coinbase transaction changes. Change the Coinbase and the Merkle root. The fingerprint summarizing all transactions in the block changes too. Change the Merkle root and the entire header is fresh, with a brand new 4 billion value nonce range to search. Combining the 32-bit header nonce with the 64-bit extra nonce gives a total effective search space of roughly 2 to the 96 possible inputs. The search space stops being a bottleneck. Even with industrial ASICs, the math of probability is brutal for a lone miner. Bitcoin produces one block roughly every 10 minutes. That works out to 6 blocks per hour, 144 per day, and about 52,560 per year. Now suppose you control 1/10,000th of 1% of the network hash rate. That is 1 part in a million. Your expected number of blocks per year is 52,560 times 10 to the minus 6, which equals roughly 0.05 blocks per year. Invert that, and your expected time between blocks is about 19 to 20 years, not 1 block per year. 1 block total every 2 decades. In between, you earn nothing, but your electric bill arrives every month regardless. This is lottery mining, enormous variance crushing in practice. The expected value is fine, the experience is financial suicide. Miners needed a way to smooth that variance without giving up the underlying economics. Mining pools solve the variance problem. Hundreds or thousands of miners point their hash power at a single coordinator. When any pool member finds a block, the reward goes to the pool, which then splits it proportionally among contributors. A miner with 1% of the pool's hash rate gets 1% of every block the pool wins. If the pool itself holds 1% of the network, it finds a block roughly every day. So instead of waiting 20 years for one giant payout, you receive small, steady payments every day. Same expected total earnings, vastly lower variance. The catch: the pool needs to measure how much work each member is contributing without trusting them to self-report. Pools measure work using shares. Think of it as dice. The network demands a roll under 4 on a 20-sided die. Rare that's a block. The pool sets an easier target, say roll under 8. Every roll under 8 is a share, submitted to the pool as proof you did real hashing work. Most shares win nothing, they're just receipts. But occasionally a share also rolls under 4, and that share is also a valid block for the entire network. The pool collects the reward and pays out based on each member's share count. Critically, the coinbase in every share commits payment to the pool's address. So the share doesn't just prove work happened, it proves who the miner was working for. A miner can secretly redirect a winning block. Their own coinbase already named the pool as the beneficiary. Pools communicate with miners using a protocol called Stratum. In Stratum version 1, the pool operator picks the transactions and the block template. The miner just hashes whatever they're handed. That centralizes a surprising amount of power in a few pool operators. Stratum version 2 pushes transaction selection back to individual miners, restoring some decentralization. Earlier experiments like P2Pool tried to make the coordinator itself peer-to-peer. The concern is real. If one pool grows large enough, the entity running it gains influence over what Bitcoin's network actually does. Concentration of hash power makes mining viable. But it also creates a question. What if that concentration turns hostile? A 51% attack means a single entity controls more than half the network's hash rate. With majority hash power, you can produce blocks faster than everyone else combined. That means you can build a private fork longer than the honest chain. Bitcoin nodes follow the longest valid chain, so your fork wins. Past blocks get reorganized, reversed, replaced. The transactions in them no longer happened. Here's the heist. Mallory wants to buy $250,000 worth of paintings from Carol. Mallory broadcasts a transaction paying Carol. It lands in block N on the honest chain. Carol sees one confirmation, considers it good enough, and hands over the paintings. Meanwhile, Paul runs a pool secretly controlled by Mallory, holding majority hash rate. Paul has been quietly building a private fork starting before block N. In Paul's fork, block M prime contains a different transaction, Mallory spending the same input back to herself. Paul mines block M prime, then M plus 1 prime. His chain is now longer than the honest one. Paul broadcasts it. The network reorganizes. Carol's payment vanishes from history, replaced by Mallory paying herself. Mallory keeps the coins. Mallory keeps the paintings. Carol owns a confirmation that no longer exists. This is why merchants wait for 6 confirmations on large amounts. Each confirmation makes reorganization exponentially harder. Mallory got the paintings, but notice what she didn't do. She didn't touch anyone else's wallet. A 51% attacker can reorder recent blocks, double spend their own coins, and censor specific addresses. They cannot forge signatures, drain strangers' wallets, mint coins beyond the schedule, or break SHA 256 or ECDSA. Hashrate controls ordering, private keys control ownership, and 51 isn't a magic threshold. Probabilistic attacks become viable around 30%. 51 just guarantees eventual success. Bitcoin security isn't a wall, it's an economic equilibrium. The cost of acquiring majority hash power vastly exceeds what you can steal from yourself. Cryptography protects your funds. Economics protects the ordering. Together, they hold the network up.